final combat for Season 2 of the MK1 Pro competition is upon us. This week, in fact. Now, with today's video, I wanted to go back and look at the previous World Finals in the world of NetherRealm-era Mortal Kombat. And as this is a countdown episode, I thought, why not make a good old-fashioned list? Today's video is exactly as the title suggests. We dive into every Mortal Kombat character that has won a world championship. The tournaments vary due to the time, the game, the player, but ultimately every single one of these characters has had what it takes to go all the way and take first place in a world championship. My name is Ketchup, and let us look at the various characters and players that have taken the #1 spot when it mattered the most. The first game of the NetherRealm Studios era was Mortal Kombat 9, releasing in 2011. And at a different time. The FGC, as we know it, was still on the rise, almost entirely thanks to the success of Street Fighter 4, but at this point, EVO in Las Vegas had very much become the one tournament to win. Most games, if not all of them, didn't have a Pro Tour by this point, so if you won EVO, you were universally described as the best around for that year. Year 1 of MK9 was EVO 2011, a stacked top 8 so early in the game's life, and to be honest, not that long after the game had released. This was the chance for players in a brand new community and a brand new game to cement themselves as serious heavy hitters. And the one player that stood above the rest was Perfect Legend, a champion already in the world of Dead or Alive, and someone who took the community by storm with his Kung Lao exclusively. Grand Finals of EVO 2011 was Perfect Legend vs Rio, a player you may know now through his wonderful YouTube history lessons. The guy's truly old school and I would say is in the top percentage of overall MK knowledge mechanically that our community has ever had. He was using Melina in that tournament and Perfect Legend was rocking Kung Lao, ultimately taking the entire tournament and immediately becoming the player to beat at any future event. The story here gets a bit interesting, however. Perfect Legend after EVO took an extended break from Mortal Kombat, and during the downtime we would see other players rise in the overall ranks. From year 1 of EVO to its following year, there were so many tournaments where all kinds of players were winning. CD Junior, Rio, Maxter, Kerbo, Detroit, and even that's just naming a few. And it led to some people in the community doubting if Perfect Legend would be able to keep up with the current top players should he make a return. And with EVO 2012 the following year, that was the tournament to prove it. EVO 2012 was the most significant MK9 tournament of all time in my opinion. Overseas players finally playing on American soil, the different regions competing against each other to see who had the best overall scene, the hype, the drama, everything about it was perfect. But at the end of the day, in a picture-perfect grand final between CD Junior and Perfect Legend would once again take first place, and once again, Kung Lao was the championship pick. These 2 years were the most significant in the game's life, and Injustice would launch the following year. And for those 2 years, the champion was Perfect Legend and Kung Lao. Although 2013 was the first year of Injustice Gods Among Us, Mortal Kombat 9 did actually make a return for its final official year in the main game roster. This is also the one and only time where 2 NetherRealm games were in the official EVO game lineup. Here's a cool story though. Injustice Gods Among Us had DJT take second place with Green Lantern, losing to KDZ, who was on a crazy tear in its first year. Now that was a phenomenal finish for a game's first EVO, but what's even more wild is that DJT actually won MK9 in that year as well, taking the tournament all the way with a somewhat newly learned Cyrax. You see, DJT was always known back then for being a Sub-Zero player, but for this event and that time frame, DJT had simply decided to learn Cyrax instead and apply a just as powerful defensive style to a character with a lot more powerful tools. DJT defeated Rio in the Grand Finals, making Rio a 2-time EVO Grand Finalist for the game overall. But even with the world's best Cabal at the time, and in my opinion the game's lifespan, it was DJT's patience and focus that allowed him to take the gold and become the second player in the scene to win an EVO World Championship for Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat X in Year 1 was something special. It was very much the beginning of the era of Sonic Fox, who had previously won EVO 2014 for Injustice. Now with MKX, the momentum built from MK9's competitive success was in full swing, where numbers for MKX were already exceptionally good. This would be echoed in the turnout for EVO 2015, where the biggest open bracket MK tournament of all time took place. Having already won MKX events and being the champion of things like the ESL-produced Fatal 8, Sonic Fox had so much momentum going into EVO 2015 that they were, by a serious margin, the favourite to win the event, and they didn't disappoint. Sonic Fox would defeat a Foxy Grandpa in Grand Finals with a team of Aaron Black and Kitana, the two characters being swapped between depending on matchup and even on variation, as Foxy used both Buzzsaw and Tempest Lao in the tournament, and even the Grand Finals. This event was significant because it was not only the, at the time, biggest open bracket event in the series history, but Sonic Fox closing the tournament out with Caltrops led to an in-game achievement later down the line being called the Fox Finish, winning a match with exactly that. In the very same year, merely a week before EVO 2015, Sonic Fox also won the first season of the MKX Pro League, a truly international series that took place first online, leading up to an offline studio finals with a collection of the world's most qualified players. Both EVO and Pro League Season 1 were won by the Kitana and Aaron Black team. The following year would bring back MKX into both the ESL Pro League, this time being its third season, and EVO 2016. New patch, new characters, and new game plans. To repeat the competitive story, Sonic Fox would win both Season 3 of the Pro League and EVO 2016. The biggest difference here was that we had a new character who was on a rampage in events of the time: Alien. Sonic Fox would still use Aaron Black and even Cassie Cage at this point, but in the most significant moments where it's do or die, it was Acidic Alien that would come out to play and ultimately secure the win. EVO 2016 was most known for the crazy debut of Tekken Master, a household name now, but a player that most fans weren't familiar with unless they watched the international offline MK Cups that took place mostly in EU. We did try and warn people about him, but they didn't listen. His rise was quick and direct, ending up with a godlike Grand Finals between Tekken Master and Sonic Fox, leading to a situation where the Alien had to make an appearance. Sonic Fox remained the champ, and in the game's prime time was the undisputed greatest player in the scene. Year 2 being in no small part due to the absolute monster that was Acidic Alien. Mortal Kombat 11, much like MKX, was heavily riding the momentum of the previous title, leading to, once again, record-breaking numbers for offline events. Mortal Kombat 11 at EVO 2019 was the first EVO for the latest MK installment, and this event for another time broke the record for the most signed up for open bracket Mortal Kombat event. Now, this year also debuted the Mortal Kombat Pro competition, so although this was EVO, the true World Championship lied in Final Combat, but I'm still going to list this event as it was the biggest open bracket to date, and still is to this day. Although it was an event with fierce competition thanks to the likes of Foxy Grandpa, Tekken Master, Dragon, and even more, it would once again be Sonic Fox to take it all the way. But who was used in the Grand Finals? Well, for EVO 2019, the champion pick was Cassie Cage, a character who always was and still is not really the most popular, but Fox had such an insane neutral and kept things to simple yet effective measures that it was a great pick to win the whole tournament with, even against Dragon, who definitely had the best Cetrion in the scene. In a game like MK11, you probably wouldn't have expected Cassie to be such a successful character early, but trust me, it was a perfect pairing. Sonic Fox's success would carry over into Final Combat that year, defeating Ninja Killer in the Grand Finals and doing so with a brand new character, the Joker. Now, the first World Championship went to the Joker, and technically the only offline pro competition winner for the entire game's lifespan, as around this time, things started to become slightly more complicated due to the global pandemic and the lockdown that would follow. From here on out, with MK11, I will only be listing the following EVOs that took place in the game's life. After a long absence due to the worldwide lockdown where offline events just weren't happening at all, the grand return of offline EVO was in 2022, and with Mortal Kombat 11 taking a spot there and seeing the debut year of the Chilean twins, Scorpion Prox and Nicolas. After a successful combo breaker and CEO that year, EVO was where the two twins would make an instant name for themselves, with Scorpion Prox taking the entire tournament versus Rewind. Now, although various characters were used between the two brothers all tournament long, in the grand finals between Scorpion Prox and Rewind, it was Kabal that took the event all the way. I actually find it interesting here that Kabal has always been known as a crazy top-tier character in most games throughout his legacy, but this was the tournament where Kabal finally won his first EVO championship, in the final version of the game where Kabal had got buffed into becoming a top-tier character, where he started in MK11 as a somewhat mid-tier that was definitely outshined by others, but in customs, that changed the entire game for him. The final EVO for Mortal Kombat 11 was the following year in 2023. The story of this tournament was simple. Who can beat the twins and take the final major event for a game that lasted 4 years of competitive, online and offline? Scorpion Prox and Nicolas went to this event as the absolute favorites to win the whole thing. However, although Sonic Fox was competing that year, it was actually Ninja Killer who was on everyone's radar, as he absolutely did not want to end the game's journey in second place. The perfect ending was in sight as Ninja Killer won the losers finals, defeating one of the two, and facing off against the other one, Nicolas, in a Fujin mirror. By that point, Fujin was a clear-cut number one in the tier list for most players. He was the perfect character with no major flaws and a superb matchup chart. Ninja Killer did the unthinkable and defeated both of the twins in the same tournament, and becoming the final champion of Mortal Kombat 11 in its prime time. Fujin was the character who got him there, but this character demanded you be amazing at the game to make his tools thrive, and Ninja Killer delivered a masterclass. Year 1 of Mortal Kombat 1 is a joined entry from EVO 2024 and the first season of the MK1 Pro competition. Sonic Fox won both EVO and Final Combat, both of which were a Johnny Cage mirror match against Nicolas. To be frank, this is a very simple entry to discuss. Johnny Cage was the most competitively consistent character in the first year of the game, regardless of patches or new characters, and although he faced nerfs in pretty much every patch, was still incredibly powerful all the way through. Johnny Cage was a clean-cut championship character throughout all of 2024, and the results more than prove it. The current final World Championship we have to go by before Final Combat this weekend is EVO 2025, a tournament that took place not really that much longer than a month ago in early August. There were so many heavy hitters in attendance, and the current meta of MK1, although we received a patch, is not that different to the meta that we had at EVO. Sonic Fox, whose last pro competition event versus South American players ended their streak of never missing a top 8, returned in full force post-combo breaker with a new set of characters, Cyrax Madame Bo and Sector Kung Lao. In the top 8 of EVO 2025, Sonic Fox used Cyrax all the way to secure the second MK1 EVO win in a row, making it the second time that Cyrax won a world championship across 2 different Mortal Kombat games. Currently, the character variety is certainly there when we're talking competitive consistency. There's plenty of characters that could be in the top 5, but there's more than 5 characters in that discussion. But who knows what will change this weekend when the second World Championship for MK1 comes to a close in Mexico City. Thank you so much for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.